All right, negative gearing. What is it? Well, negative refers to the net cash flow from the property is negative. Okay, from the property is actually making a loss each year. And gearing refers to the fact that you've borrowed money to buy the property. Okay, now let's say it's $1 million property, and let's say the rent is 35 grand a year. But then when you add in the interest expense, the land tax, the strata fees, and everything else, or let's say all the associated costs are 45 grand a year. So you're getting 35 grand rent, but you've got 45 grand expenses, including the interest expense. So you're making a 10 grand cash loss. But then let's also say that your income is 200,000 a year. Well, because you've made a loss on the property, they'll actually allow you to claim that loss against your taxable income. So instead of your taxable income being 200,000, it's now going to be 190. Okay, now because you're paying tax on 190,000 instead of 200, well, if your marginal tax rate is 47%, you're actually getting almost half of that 10 grand loss back in the form of a tax reduction. So that's how the negative gearing comes into play. You've made a 10 grand loss, okay, a cash loss throughout the year, but you get half of it back because you're paying less tax on your taxable income. So you're applying the loss on the property to the taxable income. And, the complaint is that, well, the government's subsidizing property investors by giving them a tax reduction. And it sort of is in a way, but generally you do get to apply the interest expense if you borrow for an investment. Why would someone want to cop a loss on a property? Well, the idea is that over time, the property will become positively geared and that the capital growth in the property is actually more than the after-tax cost of holding the property. It's basically a short-term loss for a potential greater future gain, and eventually the property will obviously become positively geared.